think I'd let my son marry someone who could walk away with millions while he's left with nothing? Sign the papers. The notary, Miss Franklin, looked increasingly uncomfortable. Perhaps I should come back another time, she suggested, reaching for her stamp. Stay right there, Veronica snapped. We're resolving this today. I took a deep breath, centering myself. My grandfather had prepared me for business confrontations, teaching me to remain calm when others lost control. I will not be signing anything today, I said firmly. In fact, Mr. Cole, I suggest you research my company more thoroughly before presenting such documents. Had you done your due diligence, you'd know that Virex Technologies' ownership is protected by multiple layers of trusts and legal safeguards. What you're attempting is impossible, and potentially actionable as attempted fraud. Cole paled visibly. Ms. Sinclair, I was led to believe these were standard postnuptial arrangements with a willing participant. Well, you were misled, I replied. And I would reconsider your client relationship if I were you. Veronica's face contorted with rage. You can't do this. You tricked my son into marriage under false pretenses. That's rich, I shot back. Coming from the woman who faked a plumbing emergency to ambush me with a notary. I turned to Michael, who stood frozen in the middle of the room. And you? Did you marry me knowing about this plan? Was getting access to my money the goal all along? No, he exclaimed. I had no idea about the company, Tessa. I swear. Mom just said you were hiding something financial and we should address it after the wedding. And you thought it was appropriate to conspire with your mother about my finances. Michael had no answer. His silence was damning. I grabbed my purse from where I dropped it by the door. I need to leave. Right now. Veronica stepped toward me, desperation in her eyes. If you walk out that door without signing, you'll regret it. I paused, turning back with ice in my voice. Is that a threat, Veronica? It's a promise, she hissed. I'll make sure everyone knows you tricked Michael, that you're a liar who hid millions from her husband. I smiled coldly. And I'll make sure everyone knows you tried to coerce your daughter-in-law into signing over company assets the day after her wedding. Which story do you think sounds worse? Without waiting for an answer, I looked at Michael one last time. His face registered shock, confusion, and the dawning realization that he'd made a terrible mistake. I thought you were different, I said quietly. I thought what we had was real. Then I walked out, closing the door firmly behind me. I drove aimlessly for nearly an hour, tears blurring my vision. Eventually, I found myself outside Emily's apartment building. She opened her door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. What happened? She asked, leading me to her couch. You're supposed to be on your honeymoon. Through broken sobs, I explained everything, Veronica's ambush, the notary, Michael's complicity. Emily listened without interrupting, her expression darkening with each detail. That manipulative witch, she finally exploded. And Michael, how could he let this happen? I don't know what to do, I admitted, accepting the glass of wine she handed me. I'm legally married to someone who apparently conspired with his mother to get access to my company. You need to call Richard Torres right now, Emily insisted, referring to my lawyer. This is exactly why your grandfather taught you to be cautious. I nodded, pulling out my phone. Richard answered on the second ring, and his reaction to my story was immediate and decisive. Come to my office first thing tomorrow, he instructed. Don't communicate with either of them until we've discussed your options. And Tessa, your grandfather would be proud of how you handled this. That night, I stayed in Emily's guest room, checking my phone periodically. Michael had called 17 times and left 8 voicemails, each more desperate than the last. Tessa, please call me back. It wasn't what it looked like. I had no idea what Mom was planning. Please believe me, I didn't marry you for money. I don't care about the company. I couldn't bring myself to listen to all of them. My wedding ring felt heavy and foreign on my finger. I slipped it off and placed it on the nightstand, finally falling into restless sleep around 4 a.m. The next morning, Richard welcomed me into his office with understanding in his eyes. First, let me assure you your company is completely secure, he began. The trusts we established before your marriage make it impossible for anyone, including a spouse, to claim ownership without your explicit consent. I exhaled in relief. So Veronica's documents were meaningless. Worse than meaningless, Richard confirmed. What she attempted could potentially be considered attempted fraud or coercion. I don't want to pursue legal action, I said quickly. I just want this nightmare over with. Richard nodded. Then let's discuss your marriage. You have several options. None of them pleasant, I'm afraid. He outlined them: annulment on grounds of fraud, divorce, or attempting reconciliation with clear legal boundaries. What would you do? I asked. If your daughter were in my position. He paused. I'd want to be absolutely certain about Michael's involvement before making any permanent decisions. He may be a victim of his mother's manipulation, too. But he knew something, I insisted. He admitted they discussed my finances. Many people discuss finances before marriage, Richard said gently. The question is whether he intended to defraud you, or was manipulated. Only I could determine that. Back at Emily's apartment, I found 3 deliveries waiting: flowers, a handwritten letter, and a small package. All from Michael. The letter was 8 pages of explanation and apology. I read it twice, trying to discern genuine remorse from damage control. Michael claimed his mother became convinced I was hiding something and pressured him to investigate. It never occurred to me you might be wealthy, he wrote. I just thought Mom was being paranoid. The package contained his copy of our marriage certificate and the key to his apartment, symbolic gestures of placing control in my hands. It all sounds convenient, Emily commented. He gets to blame everything on Mommy dearest. But what if he's telling the truth? I asked. There's only one way to find out, Emily said. Talk to him, on your terms. After 3 days of soul searching, I texted him, we need to talk. Bring your mother. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. Torres Legal. This is non-negotiable. His response was immediate. We'll be there. Thank you. The next morning, Richard and I prepared for the confrontation. You're in a position of strength, he reminded me. Don't forget that. They have no leverage, except your feelings. At exactly 2 p.m., Michael and Veronica entered the conference room. Michael looked terrible. Veronica was perfectly dressed, but her face was tight with displeasure. Richard introduced himself. Veronica's eyebrows shot up. You already had a lawyer ready to ambush us, she said. I knew you were calculating. Miss Sinclair arranged a notary and attorney to surprise my client the day after her wedding, Richard said coolly. So perhaps reconsider who was calculating. Veronica fell silent. Michael looked at me, devastated. Tessa, I'm so sorry. Stop, I said. Before anyone speaks, you need to understand my position. I looked them both in the eyes. Yes, I own Virex Technologies. My grandfather left it to me. It's worth $25.6 million. I kept that private because he taught me to be cautious. I turned to Veronica. Apparently, his caution was warranted. If you had been honest from the start, she began. Mom, stop, Michael interrupted. You never said she was rich. You said she was hiding debt. Their argument revealed how deeply dysfunctional their relationship was. Richard slid a note across the table. This appears genuine. He seems as blindsided as you were. Why? I asked Veronica directly. Why go to such lengths to access my company? Her composure cracked for a second. I was protecting my son, she said. By orchestrating a scheme to take half my company. I pressed. Veronica lowered her eyes. I'm in debt. Significant debt. Medical bills from cancer treatment. A second mortgage for his student loans. When I realized how successful your company was, I thought it could solve everything. The room was silent. So this was never about Michael, I said quietly. It was about you. She didn't deny it. I turned to Michael. Now I need to know where you stand. I love you, Tessa, he said. I married you because I love you. Not for money. I'm horrified. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me. Then he looked at his mother. This relationship has to change. If Tessa gives me another chance, she comes first now. The choice was mine. Walk away, or try again. I need some time, I said. This isn't a decision I can make today. Veronica stepped forward. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just for getting caught, but for what I tried to do. Desperation makes people do terrible things. It wasn't enough. But it was a start. 2 weeks passed without resolution. I moved back to my loft, returned to Virex Technologies, and tried to make sense of my suspended life. Michael and I exchanged occasional texts, polite, distant, uncertain. Veronica surprisingly maintained her distance. According to Michael, she had enrolled in credit counseling and was working with a financial advisor. She's actually seeing a therapist, he told me on one of our brief phone calls. Something she refused to consider for years. I wanted to believe people could change. That relationships could heal from betrayal. But I kept replaying the ambush with the notary. The betrayal still sat deep in my bones. Then Richard called with a new development. Veronica Miller has requested a meeting, he said. With you, Michael, herself, and both legal representatives. I sighed. What could she possibly have to say now? She didn't specify, but she insisted it would be worth your time. Against my better judgment, and against Emily's furious objections, I agreed. We met again at Richard's office. This time, Veronica was accompanied by a woman who introduced herself as Dr. Lillian Marks, a family therapist specializing in financial trauma. Veronica's usual commanding presence was subdued. I've spent these past weeks doing painful self-examination with Dr. Marks, she began. Before I say anything else, I want to apologize. Truly. She slid a folder across the table. It contained a notarized statement renouncing any claim to Virex Technologies or any of my assets, now or in the future. Then she added a sealed envelope. It's a full accounting of my financial situation. All debts, accounts, complete transparency. Richard reviewed both. It all checks out, he whispered to me. Legitimate. Why the change of heart? I asked her directly. Veronica looked at Drive. Marks, who gave her a nod. Because I realized I was about to lose my son, she said, her voice cracking. And no amount of money is worth that. Michael reached for her hand, something unthinkable weeks ago. There's something else, Veronica continued. After our last meeting, I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder and financial PTSD. It doesn't excuse what I did. But it explains it. She looked at me earnestly. I'm in treatment now, medication, therapy. I'm trying to become a better person. I studied her face for signs of manipulation. But what I saw instead was remorse. I appreciate your apology, I said. And these documents. But trust isn't rebuilt overnight. I understand, she replied. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want to take responsibility. Michael spoke next. Tessa, I've spent my whole life enabling my mother without realizing it. That's changing. But I understand if it's too late for us. What are you asking for? I asked them both. A chance, Michael said softly. Not to pretend nothing happened. But to try again, with honesty and healthy boundaries. Veronica added, and I'm asking for the opportunity to earn back some respect. Even if not trust yet. Richard passed me a final note. Their actions match their words so far. Your decision. I took a breath. Veronica, I said, my relationship with Michael is separate from my relationship with you. If there's to be any future between us, we rebuild from the ground up. She nodded. I turned to Michael. And you and I, we're not jumping back in. We try, but on my terms. Anything, he said immediately. Whatever you need. I outlined the conditions. Couples therapy. A formal postnuptial agreement, drafted by Richard. Separate living arrangements for at least 3 months. A complete moratorium on Veronica's involvement in our finances. And lastly, you need to understand Virex. The legacy it represents. If we have a future, you need to see that part of me. Michael agreed without hesitation. Veronica supported the boundaries and excused herself from any further involvement in our marriage. As the meeting ended, I felt a strange emotion stirring, cautious optimism. At the door, Veronica turned back. Your grandfather was right to protect his legacy. And he was right to entrust it to you. I see that now. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was something. 6 months later, Michael and I sat across from Dr. Lillian Marks in our 20th couples therapy session. It's been the hardest 6 months of my life, I admitted, but also the most transformative. Michael nodded. We rebuilt everything: trust, communication, boundaries. We had lived apart, attended therapy 3 times a week, individually, as a couple, and even sessions that included Veronica. The postnup was signed without drama. It protected Virex while establishing fair terms for any future marital assets. Veronica honored her word. She remained distant, in therapy, working through her financial recovery. She sent polite texts and never pushed boundaries. The breakthrough came 2 months in, when I brought Michael to Virex. Not as a visitor, but to learn the business from the ground up. He shadowed departments, spoke with employees, asked questions. It's not just a company, he told me. It's a legacy. A living, breathing mission. That changed everything. Doctor. Marks asked, and Veronica. I was honest. We're not close. We may never be. But we're building a new relationship based on mutual respect, not fear or manipulation. Michael added, for the first time, I'm not responsible for her financial security or emotional stability. That's huge for me. Veronica had consolidated her debt, refinanced her home, and stuck to a budget. Michael helped with small things occasionally, but out of choice, not obligation. And your living arrangement? The therapist asked. 2 weeks ago, I said. Michael moved into my loft. This time, it felt like our home. Doctor. Mark smiled. You've come so far. Your marriage didn't just survive, it evolved. Later that evening, as we cooked together in our kitchen, Michael noticed my thoughtful expression. What are you thinking about? He asked. My grandfather, I replied. He always said to protect myself. I thought it was paranoia. But he was right. Michael nodded. Money changes people, even if they don't realize it. But by protecting the company, I said, I also protected us. If I had told you about Virex from the beginning, my mother would have sabotaged us before we had a chance, he finished. Or I might have listened to her. Painful as it had been, the journey had led to growth. Michael had learned independence. I had learned that protecting myself didn't mean isolation. I have something for you, I told him, handing over an envelope. Inside was an offer letter for a new role at Virex, Director of Education Outreach. It aligned with his teaching background and our mission to bring tech education to underfunded schools. This isn't charity, I said. You earned this. The board approved it unanimously. His eyes widened. Are you sure? Working together, married. I smiled. We've survived worse. And my grandfather always said, business is about legacy, not just profit. As we discussed the role, my phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. May I call you about Thanksgiving plans? Michael glanced over. Your call. I thought for a moment. I think we can handle a phone call. Maybe even dinner. Depending on how things go. Small steps. Firm boundaries. Careful rebuilding. That approach had saved my marriage. Maybe, just maybe, it could save something with Veronica, too. Later that night, as Michael slept beside me, I thought back on everything. From the ambush after our wedding, to the painful confrontation, to therapy, trust, and cautious hope. The company was protected, the marriage was recovering, and I had reclaimed my power. In my grandfather's words, trust, but verify, protect what matters. The right people will love you for who you are, not what you own. He was right. This wasn't a fairy tale. It was real, messy, flawed, but honest. And in the end, that was worth more than $25.6 million. Would you have given the relationship another chance like I did? Or walked away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you found value in my story, like, share, and subscribe for more real-life lessons about love, trust, and protecting your peace.